We started by forming the maze out of building blocks big enough to fit inside the petri dish. We then proceeded by getting the hot agar. Taking a new and sterile pipette, we proceeded to add the agar around the maze. We then added it inside the maze. After everything was covered, we waited for the agar to solidify. After it was solid, we took the yellow paper with culture on it and placed them in corners of the maze, culture side down. Then we took the sterile oats with sterile tweezers and placed them on top of the paper. Taking a new pipette, we proceeded to add 1 drop of sterile water on top of the oat. Lastly, we put the cover back on the petri dish and wrapped it in parafilm. I then proceeded to check on the growth every hour and a half. We also covered it in foil to keep it in the dark. This picture was taken an hour and a half after the experiment, and as you can see, no growth was apparent. This picture was taken about 3 hours after the experiment, and yet again, you cannot see any growth yet. This was after 5 hours. I still had not noticed any growth at the 24-hour mark. After leaving it time to grow, I noticed the slightest bit of a slime mold. I then saw a significant change after 36 hours. At this point, the slime mold traveled outside of the maze. I then proceeded to make a time lapse over a 45-minute period, and if you look at the top left area, you can see some growth. The slime mold was still growing outside of the maze. The slime mold then traveled back inside of the maze. This was taken about a week after the experiment, and as you can see, the slime mold had died. We then took out the maze made of blocks, and we found a little bit of live slime mold left. At this point, we had sterilized the blocks and repeated the same steps as the beginning. We added the same oats from the first petri dish and put the live slime mold on top. Then we added 2 new sterile oats and added 2 drops of an acid on one of them and 2 drops of a base on the other using 2 new sterile pipettes. We then wrapped it in parafilm and then proceeded to wrap it in tinfoil. I then proceeded to leave the slime mold alone for 24 hours, and as you can see, no slime mold was grown, but a different kind of mold was grown on top of the new oats. The fuzzy substance continued to grow after 48 hours of doing the experiment.